Hi, my name's Avril Pollock and I am the Service Coordinator with Glasgow Housing First Legacy Service, and I am responsible for the day-to-day running of the service. Thank you for joining our session today. You're going to see a short film featuring some of our team and a person who we support, a boy called Joe. They are going to be talking about the non-negotiables. I would like to thank Jamie Fletcher for organising and filming the video, all shot on location in Glasgow with safe distancing measures put in place. I would also like to thank Tracy Paulson, Billy Flanagan and Bobby Thompson for agreeing to take part in the video, and of course Joe, who allowed us into his home for filming. There will be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end. Please put any questions that you have into the question box and we will do our best to answer as best as we can. Thank you.
Billy Flanagan are going to be talking a wee bit about the 5 non-negotiables. I'd also like to give a huge thanks to Joseph Campbell, who's also taken part in these celebrations.
When we tell service users about the sporting offer, we tell them it's unlimited. And some of the service users are quite taken aback by that. They think we only offer support for about a year. But when you tell them it's ongoing, as long as they need us, they seem to be more relaxed with you and they tell you a lot more stuff. We've got 2 service users I'd like to bring to your attention. We had John, service user for 10 years. He's still with us just now. And we've got William. He's been with us for about 2 years. He's now left the service and he's in full-time employment. And he's doing really well. I've known you about 4 years now. John, we've built up a bit of trust between us. It's all about coming and going. And I think trust is the most important thing in a relationship.
Definitely. Obviously, at the beginning, a lot of people think like doing the lines of like social work and things like that they can't be trusted and to hold back for a lot of things that you want to speak about, but like the likes of yourself and people you work with, it's a great group, and I did take a while to start to kind of open up, but you're definitely a few years have been through some of the same experiences I've been in, like homelessness, addiction issues and things like that, and so that's one of the good perks that kind of lets you.
It's about, we trust each other. It's a bouncing ideas off each other. As I say, I've been homeless, I've had addiction issues, been in and out of prison, most of my adult life. So I know the score, I know what's happening out there. So I can give you a bit of advice about what to do, where to go and all that, but it's down to you if you want to accept it or not. I don't know, do you find any difference between Housing First service and any other services you've worked for?
Of course, but the main thing with Housing First is I know that you are always there, and you know a wee kind of like 2 bob service, like you come in 4 to 6 weeks, maybe more, and then you don't hear from you again. You're kind of like, and you're like reliable, always on the phone, always there on the phone, and if I can't get like yourself, there's always somebody else I can get hold of for Housing First, and definitely I would recommend it to people if they've been in this the situation I was in before. It's a good place.
Having your own tenancy means that you have you've got your own place, a solid rock where you can you have rights and responsibilities. You're part of society, a base where you can actually link in with other services, get your own doctor, dentist, link in with other support groups, and eventually in your own time, a place where you can invite your relatives and family over for a coffee.
How did you feel when you got offered the tenancy and the day you signed for it? How did you feel? Were you emotional and anything?
I was quite overwhelmed, and it was actually the first house I seen as well, and but as soon as I viewed it and what the kitchen, the facilities and that, just everything was perfect for me. It's all wee one bedroom flat, and I was a bit stressed at first, thinking how I was going to get bits and bobs and that. But when you move into a like a gaff, you meet your neighbours and things like that, and things just kind of kick into place bit by
Yeah. How do you feel now? You've got this house for as long as you need it.
bit. It's the best secure feeling you can ever imagine, and like, it's one of the worst things when you've not got a gaff, that you're always thinking when you're going to get a new house. But when I moved in here, it's just unimaginable, and you don't realise it until you've got it. Do you know what I mean? And the feeling is great. Do you know what I mean? Coming into your own house and doing what you want to do, and you can't beat it.
That's a good feeling, knowing you can go out anytime you want, come back anytime you want. You make sure your door's locked and all that.
Exactly.
You spoke a wee bit about your neighbours there. How do you go on with your neighbours?
Aye, neighbours are okay. Just like, it's a great wee street as well, and like, you don't really get much noise at night time and that, and the neighbours are a bit older than me and that, so like, we always speak to each other in the close and things like that, and it's just the area I moved into is perfect for me.
You seem to be well liked. I notice when we get into local shops, they all know you by your first name and all that.
Aye.
They all have a laugh and a joke there.
It's a good wee scheme, and you can't beat it when you get to know people round about the area. Obviously, it's nice to feel welcomed, and just to talk to people.
Do you feel like you're part of the community?
Definitely. It took, at the beginning, it did. Sometimes it takes a bit to settle in, but the neighbours, or the neighbours I've had about here have been smashing.
We believe at Housing First that people experiencing multiple and enduring needs benefit from our Housing First module, and the no time limit on their support. We believe it makes them feel secure, and that it helps them grow and building up relationships and trust with their support worker, which in time will help them to build confidence in themselves and build up their self-worth.
You've got your name down to go to rehabilitation.
Aye, just had a kind of an issue with alcohol. I don't know how to put a kind of tap on it. Sometimes it can maybe be down to pain and that, and there's other times it can be down to sheer boredom, and it's terrible in this day and age to be bored with your interweb and all that, and computers and things like that. But I'm hoping that when I get to rehab a couple of weeks and get my head settled and take it from there.
A lot of the service users we support will have had experience of having a tenancy in the past, but the staircase model makes it difficult because people need to prove that they're tenancy ready, whereas with Housing First you get a tenancy unconditional. It's a Scottish secure tenancy, so that the house belongs to them and they don't need to worry about getting put out.
Joe was in a hostel in Carmyle and he moved into his own tenancy. How long ago was it, Joe?
About just 4 years ago.
When did you move into your tenancy?
I think it was October, 4 years back. October, November, about 4 years back, aye.
How did you find the difference for living in a hostel to moving into your own tenancy?
I was just overjoyed. Just having my door checked 24/7, people asking for odds and ends and then just getting your own accommodation, and you know when you lock that door that you can just kick back and have your own abilities and cook when you want to and do your own things rather than having your door checked every couple of hours with staff and things like that.
It's a big difference, and I think you've coped very well with it. How are you managing with your shopping and paying gas, electricity, things like that?
Things are no bad, but at the beginning it was pretty tough getting things for A to B and that, and obviously I had a lot of help for yourselves and that, just kind of readjusting again and getting back into but I have my own house, and there is a lot of responsibilities today, we getting messages and things like that, because being in a hostel, it's if you're kind of catered for, then moving to your own house, so there is responsibilities, but it doesn't take long to kind of get them sorted.
As a support worker, I've got no more than 7 people on my caseload. This allows me to support people that have got more complex needs more efficiently.
We're a unique service, I would say. You offer unlimited support to you. There's no time limit on it or anything. And if you need extra support to go to appointments, go shopping, anything like that, we'll always make time for you. It might not be the time you want to go, but there'll be some time that day that you've got an appointment and all that. And we'll arrange other appointments if you've missed one. Anything like that, Joe, we're here to support you.
I've known that, and just help like get my messages and that, and then with things like gas and electricity, and like a while back we having to go to the odd court appearance and that. All the things, you were there, or there was other staff members there to help me, and it's one of the things that kind of keeps you motivated, and definitely relied upon.
If there's any more than 7 people in my caseload, it means I won't be able to provide the same intense support that I would normally be able to.
That was great. I think that was great. He's ready for some questions? Yep. Okay, there's a great question come in from Melanie Schmidt. Housing First is gradually becoming mainstream solution. So you're naturally going to find variations arise. So will the model be watered down? Do you see that happening in Scotland? And how are you actually dealing with it? Because surely there's some pressure coming from the current pandemic.
So I would like to think that it won't be watered down. I think if you stick to the 7 principles and work to the fidelity of the model, then it can't be watered down. Our support has changed, obviously, during the pandemic, just because of the restrictions that we're under. However, the people that we support are still receiving support. It might not be the same traditional way that we've normally provided the support, where we're going out and we're maybe speaking to someone through a window rather than visiting them in their own home, but we just adapt. But I would like to think that it won't be watered down.
Excellent. So with all there seems to be quite a lot around talk around being affected, the current pandemic. So, in Housing First, we often talk about that rapport building, building those relationships being so central to the support. So how has that all been affected by social distancing, masks, and lockdown in general?
I think a lot of the time with our guys, it's just seeing somebody, because we can still take precautions. We can still go out a walk with somebody and be 2 metres apart and all the rest of it, or like Avril was saying, even at a window, sometimes it's just having the contact that people need, and we can go with people as long as they can use their precaution. Still works okay, I think.
Yeah, and is that the same for everyone? Is still seeing the same?
Yeah.
I think we see that we have a lot more contact with the service users that we support, because at the start of the pandemic, the people that didn't have phones, Housing First bought phones for the service users so that we could get contact with them, and I'm sure they appreciated having phone calls, just to check in how they are, have somebody to talk to. They could phone us as well because we spread it on the phone, and just really have somebody that they can touch base with. And also, in times of crisis, because we have had a lot of that during the pandemic, we still went out and supported people in crisis, either to get into emergency rehabilitation, hospital, in times of, for their mental or physical health. As I say, we've worked right through the pandemic. Nothing has changed for us. We're still working, we're still supporting people as the best way we can. As we say, people that maybe they didn't have food. Turning Point, they set up a food bank, and we were doing food deliveries to people. If people that were self-isolating, we had arrangements with chemists and care managers, and so that we can go and collect people's medication for them and drop them off. So I think the relationship between Housing First staff and service users is probably strengthened, because we are there for them. They know that we are that consistent people in their lives that are going to help them when they need it.
Mm-hmm. Just a personal question, just something that came up for me is you talked about providing people with mobile phones. How might that work for other organisations that maybe can't provide that technology? I mean, have you got any suggestions about how you actually keep up communication?
Well, for myself personally, if they didn't, because we do have service users that lose phones, the phones break, all that kind of stuff. And what we do is what we do normally. We increase for a set of outreach. Go to where we know that people may go out, because a lot of the service users, we try our best to give the information about the social distancing and not going out, staying at home. But people that are in chaos will go out. So we will maybe go and look where they would maybe frequent, if you like. So we would still do with a set of outreach, go to people's homes to ensure that they're okay, because the phone could literally just be broken, or they might have ran out of electricity and they can't charge the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about realising that there might be something else happening, and going to the person's house. So it's about increasing a set of outreach, safely, socially distanced, plenty of PPE. Which should be carried, which we all carry with us all the time. So it's just about, being consistent in doing that.
Excellent, thanks Jackie. Amanda is asking, how do you manage dormant cases in relation to caseload? Because we understand the caseloads are very, very small in Housing First, so how do you manage dormant ones?
We just, again, continue to try and encourage the person to engage with us. If somebody is, being a bit dormant, then we would need to find out the reasons as to why that was happening. And is there anything that we can do to change that? Or it might be that we would have a review, and it might be that that person is ready to move on from Housing First, that they no longer require our support. So we would need to look at that as well. And we would try various different things. If somebody was wanting to leave, then of course it's their personal choice. However, we would find out the reasons as to why they wanted to leave, and if it was appropriate for them, or is there something else that we could be doing. And that's where your support can go up or down as you go up or down. So if somebody needs intensive support, they might be seen every day, maybe to support them through a particularly difficult time. Or if they're doing well, then we'll back off. And we might only be phoning them maybe once a week, and then maybe seeing them the following week, and it's just a check-in that they know that we're there. However, if somebody was continuing to do that and they were doing well, then we would need to look at, is their time with Housing First, is it time for them to move on? Mm-hmm. And then we would support them to move on, but always leave the door open for them, that should they want to come back, then they can. And it might be that things don't go so well and they want to come back into full-time support again, for the want of a better phrase, full-time support. Or it might be that they just need a bit of support with a particular thing. And it might be a gas bill that they don't understand, and it might be a couple of months down the line, and they'll phone us and say, look, I've got this difficulty here, can you give me a bit of support with it? And it might just be for that. So we're very, very flexible depending on what the person needs.
Yeah, you touched there on, next steps and other agencies who might be involved. So we've kind of got a couple of related questions here about how partnership working has been affected by the current pandemic, and also where is the other question? Let me just see. I'm afraid everything jumps about the screen, so it's jumped away. Well, if you can tell us a little bit about the partnership working just now and how you move people on to next steps.
I can talk to you about partnership working. Our partnership working is probably strengthened during the pandemic, purely because everybody's working from home. So, you know, like I know at the start of the pandemic, you know, there was obviously, you know, the service users that were on ORT medication. You know, we as a staff are like, oh my goodness, they're getting all this medication taken home with them, you know, and really worried about that. So there was a lot of communication coming back and forth with care managers and ourselves, you know, to making sure that the service user was safe. We also started, obviously, we're partnership working with the service users' pharmacies as well, you know, because a lot of the time, you know, because the care managers are so busy because they have got huge caseloads. So we had permission to phone the pharmacy direct, if we want to get in contact with a service user to ensure that they maybe come in and collect the medication, and they would say, yeah, we were looking great, they come in and got their medication. Obviously, housing officers, any housing issues that were arising, you know, the housing officers were getting in contact with us, and we were still doing our tenancy checks to ensure that everything was going okay. Like, you know, like different, you know, we had different kind of communications with different people, you know, like for folk that maybe went into like rehab, you know, we had people that went, a person that went into rehab, and when they went into the crisis centre for stabilisation as well. So we developed other partnership working as well. So I think that the pandemic is actually strengthened partnership working and actually showing how important that partnership working is, that to help the person that we support. I don't know, Avril, have you got anything that you want to add to that?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. No, I agree with exactly what you said there, Jackie. Also, as much as our partnership working was strengthened, at times it could be difficult to get a hold of people because a lot of the offices were closed. So you were constantly ringing a number to try and get an answer, and sometimes you just weren't. So that could be quite challenging. And it's very challenging if you're trying to contact somebody else involved in the support when you're with the person, because what you're doing is you're spending maybe 20 minutes or 40 minutes, usually if it's the DWP, on the phone trying to get an answer to a phone when it's time that could be spent supporting that person. So your support becomes focused on getting an answer to the phone. So that can bring up some challenges. But as Jackie was saying, most of our partnership working was strengthened, and it was indeed quite diverse, that we've done things that we hadn't done before as well, so that we could provide the support to the person. So it's been a very interesting time, not without its challenges. And we're now obviously in our second national lockdown. However, I feel that we're better prepared this time. So I think that's making a difference as well. We've learned a lot as we've came through the pandemic, what works and what doesn't work. And we've also now got direct links for work mobile numbers to people, rather than having to go through a main switchboard that there's only one person in the whole of Glasgow's phoning into, and then they're having to maybe email that person, then you're waiting them calling you back. So it has worked well in that sense as well.
Mm-hmm. So Melanie's now asking, what are your thoughts on broadening Housing First target group to all people experiencing homeless that have support needs?
Housing First isn't for all people with support needs. I think some people think Housing First is a kind of one size fits all, and it's really not. Housing First is for a very small group of people that have got multiple and enduring needs. A lot of people who are homeless might just need a house, or they might just need a house with a small amount of support to help them to settle in. you know, maybe 3 months or something like that, or short-term support just to get them into their house, get them settled, and then they're able to just live in their house quite comfortably. Housing First is for the people that have got the multiple and enduring support needs, that have got long-term needs, that will find it perhaps difficult to engage with other services. So that's where we step in, and it's because we've got the time, we've got the small caseloads that we can provide the intensive support. So I think you would really need to look at the person and see what their support needs are, and then see if that is what they need is Housing First, or do they just need a house with a bit of support, or do they just need a house? So that's how I think that would work.
That's great, Avril. Hannah asked the question, which is, I think, is a good follow-on, is how has your experience been with neighbours who may be affected by antisocial behaviour, and how do you handle those situations?
Well, we really don't have contact with the neighbours, so it would be the housing officer that would take the complaints if there is a neighbour complaint. So the housing officer would directly be dealing with the neighbours. So we would work in partnership with the housing officer. So the partnership working is that the housing officer would tell us what the issue was, what the neighbour complaint was, and we would go and speak to the service user about, you know, the neighbour complaint, and then we would have a joint visit with the housing officer to try and resolve the problem very, very quickly. So we don't really have direct contact with the neighbours. I haven't had a situation where a neighbour has now maybe come out and shouting, you know, or saying, you know, like telling me stuff, if you know what I mean. I don't know if you have yourself, Avril.
No, but what is sprang to my mind is where one of the people that we support moved into a tenement close, and he had maybe 6 or 8 neighbours, and his neighbours took a dislike to him. There was no neighbour complaints, there wasn't any antisocial behaviour. What the person that we support said to us is that they just don't like the look of me. And this chap went down to hang out his washing in the communal drying area, and his neighbour came out and said to him that he couldn't do that because she had paid for the washing rope. And he didn't know what to do, so he told us when we went to see him at his next visit, and we advised him to let his housing officer know that this is what's happened, because there was other incidents as well, very, very small things, where his neighbours were coming out and actually making his life a bit difficult. He believes it's because they didn't like the look of him, so we encouraged him to report the behaviour of his neighbours. He was very reluctant. He said he didn't want to make a formal complaint, so we explained to him that, you know, you don't need to make a formal complaint at all. All you're doing is highlighting that these things are happening because your neighbour has made a complaint against you. And that situation, we managed to get that resolved. And he's living in his house quite happy. His neighbours don't bother him. He's got a few neighbours that he says hello to, but he doesn't really interact with them because of the way he was treated when he first moved in. So it works both ways, you know.
Absolutely. The problem isn't always with the service user. It can sometimes be with the other people around. So are there lessons in there to be learned around how we move forward with Housing First?
I think it's the lessons that we all learn is that you don't judge people, you treat people as an individual. Again, there is some people have a fear of Housing First, and they assume that if somebody is being supported by Housing First, then they're going to be a terrible neighbour, or they're going to be antisocial, or, you know, they're going to bring people into the area that the neighbours might not want there. But that's quite simply not the case. And I think people need to learn to be not to be judgmental. Let people live their life, welcome people into the community and move forward from there.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Avril. I'll just mention that Susan Stevenson from Housing First in Conway and Dingbigshire and Flintshire in North Wales has said, well done everybody in Scotland, you're the guiding light that is now showing us the way. So I'm sure the Housing First team really appreciate those thoughts, Susan.
Yeah, we do. Thank you very much.
Probably the last questions, because we are coming up now on just a few minutes away from 20 past, and I believe there's a break at 20 past to half past. So I'll ask one about, obviously there's difficulty with, housing shortages. Are there any unconventional housing being used for Housing First, or is that a non-negotiable? And that's from Melanie.
Right now, we're fortunate that all the people that we support are in Scottish secure tenancies that are provided by local registered social landlords. We haven't used any unconventional ways of housing. However, the future, we don't know. We do have one person who we support who is in a house that he rents from Homes for Good, which is a private letting company who look to improve people's social status by giving them a permanent home. So although it's not a Scottish secure tenancy, it is the closest thing that we would get to it in the way of a private let. I think they're what you would call a private let with a social conscience. So we do have one person who's supported, who rents their property from there, but the rest are all Scottish secure tenancies from, as I said, local registered landlords.
Excellent. I think that's us just coming up on 20 past. So Tracy, Bobby, Jacqueline, Billy and Avril, thank you so much for sharing a fascinating insight into the non-negotiables in Housing First. I'm sure everybody's really appreciated your comments and thoughts today. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
And I believe that now takes us into a break until half past. Thank you.
Thanks.